Welcome to Life Stories, where the floor isn't just cold, it's a quiet battlefield for dignity. Imagine coming home after years of chasing your dreams, only to find your bedroom gone, your belongings in boxes, and your parents telling you the living room floor is all you deserve. No warning, no apology, just a quiet eviction under the same roof. This isn't just a story about family, it's about erasure, resilience, and what happens when the person they underestimated the most decides to stop waiting for respect and builds it from scratch. If you've ever felt invisible in your own home or like your worth depended on your paycheck, this story will stay with you long after the credits roll. Let's begin. I never imagined I'd be homeless while still living under my parents' roof. Yet there I was, 29 years old, standing in the narrow hallway of the house I grew up in, watching as boxes of my belongings were pushed against the wall like clutter no one had the energy to throw out. My mother, Karen, didn't even glance up from her phone as she muttered, "Maddie needs the room more now. You can just sleep on the floor until you figure things out." Her voice was so casual it felt surgical. I didn't argue. Not because I agreed, but because something inside me snapped too quietly to make a sound. I nodded, walked away, and began planning something they would never see coming. Just 3 months earlier, I had returned home to suburban Connecticut after graduating with honors in architecture from UCLA. The economy had crashed harder than anyone anticipated, and every architectural firm I applied to had frozen hiring or shut down altogether. My fallback plan was to regroup at home, save money, and restart once the market stabilized. What I didn't know then was that coming home would mean being erased. At first, my parents had welcomed me with the kind of supportive veneer you'd expect from people who still cared about appearances. My father, Ron, proofread my cover letters. Karen packed me a sandwich before interviews. I contributed $300 a month to groceries and utilities, cooked dinner several nights a week, and cleaned the house every Sunday like it was a penance. I stayed grateful. I stayed quiet. Maddie, my 17-year-old sister, was in her senior year of high school. Loud, impulsive, endlessly adored. She'd burst into my childhood bedroom with stories about prom committees, college rejections, or the latest boy drama, collapsing onto my bed without knocking. I didn't mind. For a time, it felt like we were sisters again, not just people sharing space. That illusion shattered one Thursday evening when I came home from a promising interview at a firm called Haven and Finch. Marissa Finch, the founder, had liked my portfolio. She'd said, "You've got both vision and restraint. We'll be in touch." I'd bought ingredients for lasagna that night, 3 cheeses, handmade pasta, a bottle of red. My father even toasted to Elena Morgan, a future architect of Manhattan. It was the last time they looked at me with anything resembling pride. 2 days later, I returned from a networking brunch to find my room gone. My twin bed replaced with Maddie's queen. The walls once covered in architectural sketches, now plastered with concert posters. My drafting table replaced with a vanity. My awards thrown in a box like relics of someone who had never mattered. And there, at the center of it all, was my mother holding a laundry basket like she was rearranging furniture, not dismantling someone's life. "You're barely home anyway," she said, as if that excused the theft of my space. Ron, emerging from the bedroom, added with finality, "The living room floor should be fine, until you figure things out." I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded. I said, "I see." And I spread a camping mat on the floor like it was a choice. That night, the hardwood pressed against my spine like a reminder. Comfort is conditional. Dignity is optional. The cold wasn't just physical, it was existential. I wasn't just displaced, I was demoted. From daughter to inconvenience, from person to placeholder. The days blurred. Maddie's friends sprawled across my sleeping space watching Netflix. My mother complained that my toothbrush cluttered the bathroom. My resume was met with polite nods, while Maddie's debate team win was celebrated like a Nobel Prize. At one point, I overheard my parents in their bedroom. "She needs to try harder," Karen whispered. We had a mortgage by her age. "She chose architecture," Ron replied. We told her accounting made more sense. That night, I stared at the ceiling and decided I would not break, I would build. What they didn't know, what they never cared to ask, was that Haven and Finch had offered me the job. 62,000 a year, like benefits, stability. The very next morning, I met with a realtor. I asked her to show me listings in one zip code only, ours. By some divine twist, the vacant house next door had just dropped in price. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, ancient wallpaper, a backyard larger than my parents'. The realtor, Melanie, warned me, "It's a fixer-upper. You'd have to love it to want it." "I don't need to love it," I replied. "I just need it to be mine." That weekend, as my mother asked me to clean the bathroom for Maddie's study group, and my father reminded me to stay quiet during their guests' dinner party, I was finalizing mortgage paperwork with a pen that didn't shake. I didn't move out right away. I played the part, cooked, cleaned, slept on the floor, smiled politely. I let them believe they'd won, that I had accepted my place beneath them. All the while, I renovated walls, laid flooring, installed cabinets, built bookshelves. Every inch of the house next door became a reflection of who I was outside their line of sight. Then came the final touch, the pool. I met with 3 contractors before settling on coastal designs. "I want a minimalist rectangular pool," I told the designer, "with a waterfall facing that direction." I pointed toward my parents' kitchen window. She blinked. "You sure?" "I'm sure." 6 weeks after I was told the floor was good enough for me, I vanished before dawn. I packed my boxes in silence, left a note on the counter, found my own place, won't be needing the floor anymore. That afternoon, Karen called 3 times. Ron texted. Maddie asked, "Did you really move out?" I didn't answer. That evening, I pulled into my own driveway next door and unlocked my front door with a new key. My mother stood in her kitchen, wine glass in hand, staring through the window. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. Because the truth is, I wasn't trying to get away from them. I wanted to be seen, and now, every time they look out that window, they will see me. Have you ever been pushed aside by those who were supposed to protect you? What would you build if you stopped asking for permission and started reclaiming space? Elena has only just begun to draw her boundary. What happens next will not just shake her family, it will expose everything they've pretended not to see. The knock came earlier than expected. Elena had just returned from her morning site visit, dust still clinging to her jacket, when the sound echoed through her new hallway, firm, rhythmic, and unmistakably familiar. Through the frosted glass, 2 silhouettes hovered. She didn't open the door right away. She took a breath, steadying herself with the quiet knowledge that she no longer owed anyone an immediate answer. Then, slowly, she turned the knob. Ron stood in front, flanked by Karen. Both looked awkward in a way that suggested they weren't here to apologize, but to reclaim some imagined authority. Karen's eyes darted past Elena, scanning the sleek interior, the polished floors, the brushed gold light fixtures overhead. "We didn't know you were serious," she began, as if Elena had merely staged an elaborate prank. "Buying the house, renovating it, and that pool. What exactly are you trying to say with all this?" Elena tilted her head. "That I exist, that I always did." She didn't invite them in. Ron cleared his throat. "You could have told us you got a job at Haven and Finch, no less. That's incredible." "But you didn't ask," Elena replied, her voice calm, controlled. "You asked what Maddie was eating, what color her room should be, what I was doing with my life, not once." Karen stepped forward. "This feels dramatic, excessive. A pool next to our house?" Elena gave the smallest smile. "You gave my bedroom away without a word. Dramatic is subjective." They didn't have a response to that, and for a moment, the silence between them felt like an open grave, years of buried slights and bruises rising between them. Then Ron asked, too casually, "Are you going to invite us in?" "No," she said simply, and shut the door with a quiet finality that rang louder than any slammed one ever could. But what she hadn't expected was Maddie. That evening, as Elena stood barefoot on the new patio tiles, reviewing design notes with her contractor, she heard soft footsteps approach the gate. Maddie's voice, hesitant, unfamiliar, floated over the fence. "Sam, Elena, can we talk?" She turned, surprised to find her sister without makeup, hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands, no phone in sight. She looked younger than usual, like the little sister Elena remembered before high school popularity twisted her smile. "I was awful." Maddie said. No theatrics, no eye rolls, just plain spoken guilt. I let them treat you like furniture. I watched you sleep on a floor and never said a word. Then I told my friends you were just in between things, like you were a temporary inconvenience. Elena didn't interrupt. She needed to hear it all. I don't know why I did it, Maddie continued. Maybe I liked being the center of attention for once, or maybe I thought you'd bounce back no matter what. You always did. But then I saw your house. I saw your name on the mailbox, and I realized you didn't bounce. You built. You built something that no one can take from you. Elena's throat tightened, but she kept her arms crossed. Why now? Because I want to be better. And I'm scared I'll end up in your shoes one day, struggling, alone. I don't want to treat people the way I treated you. For a long moment, the only sound between them was the trickle of water from the partially built pool. Then Elena nodded toward the gate. Come in. They sat under the string lights on folding chairs, just two sisters with bruised histories and hopeful outlines of something like forgiveness. Maddie didn't ask for a tour. She didn't comment on the countertops or the fixtures. She just asked questions, real ones, about design, about college, about what it had felt like to be invisible. Elena told her, not with bitterness, but with honesty. She spoke of loneliness and quiet rage, of the way being underestimated can calcify a woman's strength in ways no one sees coming. But even as something began to heal between them, another thread began to fray. 2 days later, Elena received a notice in the mail, a local zoning inquiry, anonymous neighbor complaints regarding unauthorized pool excavation and excessive construction noise. It didn't take a genius to guess who sent them. She showed up at the city office with permits in hand, every document legal, every step approved. But as she drove home, a cold realization settled in. Someone wanted to make her pay. Not legally, emotionally, vindictively. Her success was too visible, her house too close, her presence too undeniable. That night, she found Karen walking along the sidewalk by the property line, phone in hand, peering at the construction site with a disapproving frown. Elena stepped outside. Karen didn't flinch. The neighbors are talking, she said without looking at her. It's becoming a spectacle. Elena's voice was low. You mean I'm becoming inconvenient again? Karen turned to face her. You always had a flair for making statements, and you always had a gift for pretending cruelty was practicality. Karen didn't answer, but for the first time her eyes flickered, not with anger, but with something closer to fear. Fear of being seen for what she had done, what she still couldn't admit. What would you do if healing meant standing your ground even when family turned into foes? How do you forgive someone who never says the words? As Elena draws the final lines between what was and what must be, the next chapter of her story won't just challenge her boundaries. It may force her to choose who remains inside them. The summer sun shimmered on the surface of Elena's pool, casting fractured reflections of blue and gold onto the clean slate tiles. Inside, her home was immaculate. Warm-toned wood floors, minimalistic furniture, plants she watered every Sunday morning, each one thriving. It had been 3 months since she moved in. 3 months since she slipped out of her parents' house without a raised voice, without a dramatic exit. Just a quiet note on the kitchen counter and a door closed for good. Yet, somehow, the echoes still followed her. Maddie had become a quiet regular. She brought over coffee, asked questions about architecture, shared tentative updates about her college plans. Their conversations, though cautious, were real, honest in a way they hadn't been since childhood. Sometimes Elena would catch her lingering in the entryway, eyes darting toward the living room, as if remembering the nights her sister used to sleep curled on the hardwood like a ghost no one acknowledged. And sometimes, without saying it out loud, Maddie would offer small reparations. A bouquet from the farmer's market, a book she thought Elena might like, a sketch pad and pencil set she'd saved up for. Things that weren't enough, but were something. And Elena, in return, let her in. Slowly, deliberately. Karen and Ron, however, remained visitors to the boundary line. They had stopped by twice, unannounced, standing awkwardly at her doorstep with casseroles or suggestions for lawn care, never naming what they had done, never offering more than a nervous smile or a shifting of blame disguised as nostalgia. "We were just doing our best," Ron had said one afternoon, eyes downcast. "We had a lot going on." Elena didn't respond. She simply closed the door gently, choosing silence over the hollow space where an apology should have lived. But then came the invitation. It arrived in a pale lavender envelope tucked into her mailbox, sealed in a way that suggested care. Inside, handwritten in Karen's delicate script, "Family dinner. Sunday, 6 p.m. We'd like to talk." No flourish, no guilt-laden commentary, just 5 words that pulsed like a bruise. Alina stared at the note for a long time, standing on her porch as the wind lifted the hem of her shirt. Maddie's words echoed in her head from their last conversation. "They're changing, slowly, but they don't know how to say sorry, not the way you want them to." She had laughed bitterly then, but now, holding the invitation in her hand, she didn't feel laughter. She felt tired, tired of waiting for people to catch up to the damage they caused, tired of carrying the weight of proving her worth to people who had weighed her down. And yet, she went. Not out of hope, not out of forgiveness, but because she needed to know if there was anything left worth saving. She arrived at 6:04 p.m., just enough time to be deliberate. Karen opened the door, her smile tentative, Ron hovering behind her, looking older somehow. The house smelled of garlic and rosemary, just like it had on Sunday dinners years ago. For a moment, Elena's body betrayed her, and she felt her throat tighten with a memory. Dinners, when they were still a family, before hierarchy turned love into condition. Dinner was quiet at first. Maddie sat beside her, offering an encouraging glance. Ron made small talk about a neighbor's dog. Karen passed the bread twice without meeting her eyes. It wasn't until dessert was served, a lemon tart, Elena's childhood favorite, that the air shifted. "We owe you more than we've given," Ron said, clearing his throat. Karen reached for her wine but didn't drink. "What we did, what we allowed to happen, it wasn't just wrong, it was cruel." Elena said nothing. She needed to hear all of it. Karen looked up, her voice for once not performative. "I think I told myself you'd be fine no matter what. You always were. You were the one who never needed help. But I see now, needing help doesn't make someone less, and offering none makes us less." Silence fell. Not heavy this time, but clean. Elena felt the tension loosen slightly in her spine. "I won't pretend it didn't hurt," she said finally. "It still does. I still think about the way you stepped over me every morning like I was part of the floor." Karen blinked. Ron looked away. Maddie reached under the table and gently squeezed Elena's hand. "But I've changed," Elena continued. "And this house, this life I've built, was never about revenge. It was about survival, dignity, independence, and I'm proud of it, even if you never see all of it." "We see more than we did," Karen said softly. "We may never catch up to who you became, but we'd like to try, if you'll let us." It wasn't a complete apology, but it was a beginning. Elena left before the sun went down. She didn't promise more dinners. She didn't say she forgave them. But as she stood in her own kitchen that night, barefoot, eating cold lemon tarts straight from the container, she realized something she hadn't dared believe before. She wasn't waiting anymore. Not for their approval, not for their recognition. Her life had already started without them. Weeks passed. The pool sparkled under moonlight. The garden bloomed. The project she led at Haven and Finch was shortlisted for a national award in sustainable design. Maddie got into university, and one night, out of the blue, Karen left a package on her doorstep. No note, just a small wooden box. Inside was a photo of Alina at her college graduation, long forgotten, and beneath it, a handwritten letter. It was only one line, but it was everything. "I'm sorry. You deserved more than we gave you." Elena sat on her porch, that photo in her lap, the sound of water trickling behind her. There were no tears, just breath, just stillness, just a woman who had reclaimed her life one boundary at a time and who now finally understood healing didn't require them to change. It only required her to let go of needing them to. How did this story resonate with you? What part of Elena's journey stayed with you the most? If you love this story, comment 100 below and let us know what country you're watching from. Share this with a friend who needs a reminder that your worth is never defined by where you sleep. Thank you for watching Life Stories.